Your parents had to have felt like they were losing you. Like it's hard to imagine from what you've told me of two parents that were more dedicated to their sons.
Yeah. Son, daughter, son. Yep.
So 3 kids.
Yep.
Loving, gave everything. And from their perspective, and I guess especially, and you've already said this, but from your mom's perspective, it's like I've given everything and they're just taking my golden
baby.
child.
Yeah.
They're taking him away and I'm losing him.
For sure. And it was like, even you mentioning that, just like, it makes me sad for what I didn't know.
Are you getting emotional a little bit?
For sure. Like I feel that the tears welling up just because I didn't even know what I was doing. Obviously we're self-centered when we're young, and I think that's, intentional and good, but like, and my mom, who's still like, even if they like push back, my mom and dad, it was never out of, they were just like, we don't want you to lose who you are. They loved my personality. They loved that I was fun and gregarious, and they didn't want me to become a robot. They didn't want me to be uptight about what I wore on Sundays. They didn't want me to stress out if I drank like a Snapple, with tea. They just wanted me to be happy. And I was telling them, this is what will make me happy. And at the time I really believed it. And I think they wanted to believe it for me, especially my mom. But I think they also had the wisdom of being older and saying, I don't think so. And even like, we'll get to it later, but like eventually I, leave seminary and I am telling my mom about what I'm going through. And I still had a hard time admitting that she was right, because I think there's some sadness. I'm like, crap, I just like.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, the trauma, man, it's so real and so heavy and so hard. And getting back to LA, I was like, North Carolina's a lot slower. Right? A couple of the towns I served in were, one stoplight towns or what have you. And even in general, the bigger cities like Raleigh compared to downtown LA, like night and day. And I come back and I feel like I'm just in the epicenter of sin, and I'm driving.
Armageddon, you're in Gog and Magog.
Exactly. Like LA and Vegas are being taken first, and maybe San Francisco, because I guess like I was told that I had to hate gays on my mission, right. and so it's just so it was so hard.
So you're in Sodom and Gomorrah when you get off your mission.
Yep, and I'm just like, get me out of here, like my sinning family, and that's the worst. And I knew I didn't want to be that, but I couldn't help it. And the judgment, I don't even remember what I said or did, but I know that my sister was like, you sucked when you came home. We did not like being around you. You were so judgmental. You were so mean. And really tragic. I did fail to mention my brother ends up getting baptized while I'm on my mission.
Okay.
About a month in. My dad starts going back to church because my brother can't drive. So that's the thing. My mom now feels very...
So talk about your brother getting baptized.
So I was super pumped. I'm like, it's happening, right? Like, I'm faithful. I'm on a mission. My first month, my brother gets baptized. And so my dad was watching him, and my dad started coming back to church, and my dad got reactivated.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right? He ends up doing really good. He stops drinking. He's able to get a temple recommend. Before I go to BYU, I'm my dad's escort at the temple, and in the LA temple. And I feel so vulnerable because I know how much I hate the temple, and seeing my dad like very kind of childlike, like I don't really know what's going on here, and me feeling like responsible for that, and being like, I'm so like wanting to soften the blow of like, this is weird crap, man. But yeah, so my dad, he'd wear garments, but I think they just got uncomfortable. He was a bigger dude, so he was hot. And anyway, my mom felt very alienated. It became very divided in my family. It's the 3 guys, versus the 2 girls, and the 3 guys are Mormon and the 2 girls are not. And there's a lot of division and a lot of frustration, I think, with my mom feeling like my dad betrayed her. I thought you were going to take my side, and now you've taken their side, which will play out significantly when I get married in the temple, because that was a big, big, big deal for a lot.
So your mom didn't succumb to the peer pressure.
No.
Her husband reactivates, her 2 sons, not your sister didn't get baptized, but the women held out.
Yeah, which is interesting, because I mean, my experience has been that, especially on my mission and in seminary, more typically females have been receptive to spiritual things, whereas guys are kind of like, I don't want to talk about it, And so it was interesting. I actually think my mom and sister are very wise and hard-headed, and I think they're able to see through some of the crap that perhaps me, my dad and brother, who are very, I think, shame prone, I think we succumbed to it because we found an idea of hope and healing and peace and all of those things that perhaps my mom and sister were more resistant to in a good way. Yeah. So, and my sister is at Texas Christian University. Like, she's not going to be Mormon. Like, that's not going to happen there. And then goes to grad school at University of North Carolina. And like, it's just, she's not surrounded by it, you know?
So you fall in love,
get married.
Wait, okay.
But this is the hard thing.
Okay.
The hard thing is I have to tell my mom, who's not welcome at the temple. And
so wait, you get engaged to Rachel. How many months after your mission?
So I get home in August and we're engaged in March.
Oh, okay.
April.
Okay. All right.
I justify it by saying, and it's true, we did know each other since 5th grade. We didn't know each other romantically. Yeah, it was so, I love Rachel. And I am so grateful I'm with her. I really am. But having to tell my mom, because I knew it was hard when I went on my mission, but I'm the first one to get married. I'm the first grandkid to get married. I'm the first grandkid to, leave home, all of those things. So I tell her, and I mean, she knows what that means. I said, Mom, we want to do a ring ceremony for you. And she's like, don't patronize me. I know what you're doing in there. I'm like, okay. And so anyway, I asked my dad, who's still active at the time, I asked him to be a witness. He's the only member of my family at the temple, in the temple. All of Rachel's, and mercifully, we know the same people because we grew up in the same place. So it did feel like I had support, but I will tell you, like, thinking of my family being outside, thinking of my grandparents, when my brother ends up getting married and had a wedding that wasn't in the temple, I was talking to them at the reception and they were like, our first wedding. And I'm like, I've been married for 4 years. They're like, that wasn't a wedding. I'm like, oh, I guess from your perspective, it really wasn't. Like, how would that have been a wedding? So my dad does come. He is our witness. And then we go on our honeymoon.
Okay, wait. So your parents were not allowed to go in the temple?
My dad was, my mom wasn't.
So your dad got to go, but your mom had to sit outside. And what was that like for her?
Horrid. And for her parents who were there, like, it was just horrid. And feeling unloved. And my mom, who wants to be kind and supportive, I know she was fighting back bitterness of, who are these random people? Like friends that we knew. My former Little League baseball coach was in there, who's Mormon, and my mom's not. And just so much, like, she ended up telling me later, she's like, I'm not worthy in your God's eyes to go to this building. I'm not good enough because I drink tea, because I wear dresses that don't have sleeves on them. And how do I answer that? Like, in my mind, I'm like, Mom, I want you there. You deserve to be there. And at the same time, I feel like I have to defend the church and say, no, the church's way is right. Like, the word of wisdom, if you drink tea, you're not worthy to go to heaven. What the hell? Sorry, kind of teaching is that? What is that? What is that? How can I, like, I did believe it and I taught it, but like, what would that be like to be my mom and hear that? And man, it infuriates me. And she ended up, like, she was really hurt, understandably so. And she basically told my dad, like, you have chosen your son over me. We were supposed to be a team. Why did you go there? How could you be there? That's unacceptable. And my dad was like, I'm not choosing the church over your mom. And so my dad's like, I'm not going because your mom is so hurt from how this was. And so my dad stopped going. At the time, I'm like, but Dad, like, Jesus, what would Jesus want you to do? I had a conversation. He's like, Mark, if your family was sick on a Sunday and you had to go to the store and buy medicine, would you do it? I'm like, no, keep the Sabbath day holy. My dad's like, you're insane. Like, you're crazy. My dad's like, your family, Mark, should always come first. And like, it's so hard, right? Because now as a dad, I'm like, yes, Dad, you got it right. Family should always come first. But as a son, I'm thinking, Dad, you're totally wrong. Look at you. You're being deceived by Satan. Mom is inspired by Satan. Mom is dragging our family down. And like, the fact that those were even thoughts in my head is so embarrassing. Is not the right word because it's not my fault, but it's so like, how could I have ever thought that about two people who, and my whole family, who have forever been so good to me? How could a religion that's supposed to be so loving, that's supposed to be all about family, do this to my family? You know, I gave it all up for Mormonism, and all it gave in return was strained family relationships, heartache, frustration, bitterness between me and my mom. Like, it destroyed our relationships that we're still rebuilding very slowly now. And I can't, like, I tell my mom and I'm like, I'm sorry. What's sorry going to do? Does sorry bring us back to 2012 in the temple? Does sorry, bring back the judgment that I passed on her? No, it doesn't. And she doesn't get it completely because she was never in. And so from their perspective, it was my choice to be this way. And for me, I'm like, Mom, I would never have like just chosen this freely. Like I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do, So yeah, a lot of freaking anger there for sure. And sadness, obviously.
So your mom was left out of the temple. You said your dad did or didn't go?
My dad did go.
Okay, because you said he wasn't going to, but he ended up. I'm wondering if he was really worthy or if they kind of pulled some strings.
He might have, or if he was, he didn't tell anyone. Because I think my dad's always been like, why do I have to tell this guy? Like some random bishop,
Yeah. Not to judge him.
No. Like he definitely, he wasn't wearing his garments. Like I know that, which is funny. But like, he wasn't drinking. He hasn't had a drink of alcohol since, my brother gets baptized or whatever. So like, awesome for him because it's mainly a health thing. Like it helps him. It helps. But yeah, so I don't think my dad has never been like I was in mentally. Like I knew the doctrine back and forwards. Like I was a freaking seminary teacher. My dad was never that way. Like he knew the bare bones of Mormonism, and so therefore, worthiness was not a thing for him.
And that's another thing. Like we talk about Scientologists or Jehovah's Witnesses that like ostracize, that like shun, and you can't ever talk to your family member again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
But look at the stress and division. Look at the wedge that the church was putting between you and your mom and between your mom and your dad.
For sure.
That's real.
It's so real.
I
think the word that has come to me as I've thought about that is the church allows plausible deniability. No, we're not Scientologists.
We don't have that kind of shunning.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, look, we're happy. We love family. Like they have just enough to be like, we're not like them, therefore we're not doing those things. And that's not true. But they have the right language and the right ways and their PR team and enough to be like, again, plausible deniability. No. That's not, you've interpreted that wrong. That's not what we intended. But we know, look, I really truly think I was the epitome of the golden convert doing exactly what I was supposed to do. Join the church, give up my whole life, go to BYU, go on a mission, come back, teach seminary. Like, is that not the dream? If you had a convert like that, wouldn't you be like, wow? Like, so I'm doing this.
Be an all-American athlete. Don't forget that.
Yeah, thanks. You're nice.
It's no small thing.
You're nice. And so that's the thing though. Like, they're like, no, but that was just you. You didn't have to interpret it that way. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't want to, but you told me, or quotes from prophets, or some culture, some talk that got ingrained. And so that plausible deniability gives them enough leeway to be like, I don't think Mormonism is a cult, but there's cult-like behavior. Mm-hmm. The plausible deniability allows them to say, we're not a cult, we're a religion.
Yeah.
But the plausible deniability also for me says that's cult-like behavior.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can't call you out. So there's the stress of that,
Yeah.